Oh God, John. Oh God, John. Hurry up. The intro's running. The intro's running. We're on. Hurry, John. Sit down before you get a glance at your butt. Yeah, we're not on. Oh dear. Oh dear. Gonna have to get up and get it.
I will.
Oh Lord. We're prepared. What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Curtis here.
John.
John. It's actually pronounced John. So, let's see here. Oh, jeez. I shouldn't have done that. I completely messed myself up. Now I gotta drag this. Oh, no. Where's it going? Oh, what happened? Oh. Hi. We have two people watching me try to drag this screen up. Okay.
How many streams do you think it'll take before we finally figure out what we're doing?
Infinity. It'll be infinity streams. Okay, there we go. Now I can see multiple things at once, so that's always a plus. So, welcome to Player Tuesday, everybody. This is our live stream, soon to be podcast, where two bros just hang out on the couch, drink some beer, and talk about stuff that we like, which usually involves movies, video games, and a little bit of tech. So, as I said, I'm Curtis, this is John, and yeah, we have some exciting stuff for you today. But first, we're going to talk about how our weeks have been. So, John, how was your week?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was about the same as most weeks before, I suppose.
Did you do anything fun? Did you wear pants?
You know what I did?
You didn't wear pants. You hesitated.
I thought about it because usually no, I'd have to tell you no, but it was pretty cold this weekend.
It was pretty cold.
Little John demanded pants.
So we're located here in Virginia, and just to give you an idea of how the weather has been, a couple weeks ago I was in shorts walking around the house contemplating whether or not to keep my windows open, and it iced over the weekend. And, of course, Virginians don't know how to drive, so a little bit of weather outside, be it snow or rain, they all lose their minds.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying. But, yeah, so got some weather over the weekend, which put a damper on some things, but luckily freed up some time, so that way I could work on some future stuff. But, yeah, sorry to interrupt there, John.
Well, that's all right. Didn't have a whole lot more going on this week. Couldn't play Warframe. I don't know, some controller mess-ups, I guess.
Hopefully we got that fixed. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about the issue you were having.
Oh, it's just a standard issue. I mean, the controller just is disconnecting. I don't know why, but it's a little hard to to make any progress when you're sitting there getting shot up for 10 seconds straight.
Indeed.
Although, I'll tell you what, I think that one time I died with you was like the only time I've actually died throughout. Rhino is good?
The best. Come on now, you're not playing the Naros. You can't just sit there and like take damage like a sponge.
Oh, with Rhino, yes sir, yes you can. I'm not playing swordies, so yeah, absolutely.
True. Yeah, being an Excalibur, like that's probably my biggest gripe is just how fragile my Warframe is. Like, I can't take damage. It's like my shield's gone. Like, I don't have enough health. Ugh. But yeah.
Yeah. Excalibur is offense equals offense is a great defense.
Yes, and I am still rocking that Adder-Axe I got from last week, and that thing is just so good. Like, the pair that it makes with Excalibur is just like unbelievable. Here, I gotta resituate this. There we go. Oh, that might have been too far. But yeah, anyway, it makes a really, really good pair because where I'm so fragile, I'm able to kind of run away and hit them from a distance. But yeah. Oh, jeez, I've done messed everything up. Oh, rip headphone users. I'm sorry, this probably sucks for you. But
Yeah, in lieu of Warframe, I play a little of the most recent Ratchet and Clank game, the remake of the
nice.
first one.
So PS4
Yeah. Yep.
traitor. Just kidding.
How's that?
Dirty console peasant. I'm just kidding, buddy. You play on what platform is fun.
Okay.
You're beautiful just the way you are, John. Don't let anyone tell you different. But yeah. So Ratchet and Clank, how's that? Any good?
You know, it's not too bad. The story beats aren't as good as they were in the first. But to be honest, that's about what I was expecting. Ever since the PS3 games, the humor's been traded from a bit more crass, a bit more mature to more kid friendly.
Okay.
And this was just more of the same, and it was fine. But it's not all that great, and the story itself isn't particularly wonderful. Although I will say they did a good job of blending. It was weird because it's a remake of the first game, but it's also a movie game.
Really?
There was a movie that was made to accompany it, and it is able to play off of that and still remake levels from the original one. And yeah, it still offers something new along that lines. And so on those terms, with the mechanics itself, with the visuals, with the gameplay, it's actually pretty strong. It's not a real long game, but I would say that I would say ultimately it comes to okay. It's fairly good. It's Ratchet and Clank. If you like Ratchet and Clank, then
yeah,
you'll more or less get something out of it, most likely.
pretty much like that whole category, like Sly Cooper, Ratchet Clank, Jack and Dexter, all of that. I definitely played a lot on PS2. Yeah, I didn't realize it was a remake on the first one. That's pretty interesting. But yeah.
So how about you? Anything exciting going on in your life, sir?
Well, there is a whole lot that's exciting. It's never dull. But I released the first EDVAC video, which if you don't know, EDVAC is my personal system. Named after a really cool figure in history, which you should totally look up because it's pretty cool, especially if you're into tech. But anyway, that was a rabbit trail. So I filmed tearing it down, cleaning it up. I ordered a part. It should actually be in today or tomorrow. And I just got confirmation from the super secret awesome product sponsor for the video. Such an awesome start to 2019. Like, almost back-to-back, like, sponsored product in the channel. Like, and to only be at currently 83 subscribers, like, it blows my mind. Like, usually people don't get notable product until they're, like, closer to tens of thousands. And, it's super humbling, super exciting. But anyway, so that'll be in later in the week. I can finish filming that, get it up and running, take a look at the product, because it's going to be so sick. I can't wait to show you all. I told John a little bit about it, but he's not allowed to tell a soul, because no spoilers. But anyway, so yeah, that's going. I got a phone call from my wife yesterday, and there were some strange men out in our side yard, and they had a gigantic roll of cable, and apparently they were pulling cable across the lines and almost like knocked down one of our fence, almost pulled down one other fence, and she was like, what are these idiots doing? So she went out there and talked to them. Well, come to find out, we're getting high-speed internet. And I know that's like, to most people, it's like, not a big deal. I have DSL at home. So when I make a 10-minute like video for YouTube, usually it takes about 12 to 13 hours to upload. So I am stoked that we're oh, sorry. That was real loud. I am so stoked to finally get good internet to where like I can do more things for the channel, just a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, that's gonna be super awesome once that's finally hooked up. But yeah, other than that, played a little bit of Warframe with you. Still working on Mastery Rank 5. I swear I'm gonna be stuck in 4 forever. This has been like the longest rank, and you're like what, 8 or 9?
Yeah, I mean it's just I just moved through sets and sets of weapons, and
see, and I feel like I do rather quick, but like,
well,
I don't know.
The way that I was able to do it is that I focused on and for a while I was doing it while I was moving through the star chart. Sorry. So I was getting points for moving through the star chart, and I was ranking up weapons, and I would make sure to rank up all 3 weapons at the same time.
Okay.
So that essentially I'm getting, instead of just 3,000 points at a time, I'm getting 9,000 points at a time.
Oh, I got you.
So that's what it is, but it's not a big deal, I suppose. A lot of people suggest just to focus on just pushing through the star chart, and then mastery rank, go for your mastery rank.
And I am so stuck. Like, I can't advance any story mission because I need neurodes. Actually, no, I take that back. I did manage to build one item that I did need, so luckily that'll be waiting for me when I get home. But yeah, so that's pretty much how my week's been. A lot of stuff to look forward to, but to speak of looking into the future, that was a really bad segue. I got to work on that one a little bit. But anyway.
It adds character.
So if you paid attention to any tech news, you would know that AMD had some pretty exciting announcements at CES. The first of which is their Radeon 7 graphics cards. Now, the reason it's named Radeon 7 is they've actually gotten the manufacturing process down to 7 nanometers, or Newton meters. Newton meters? I can't remember math. But anyway, it's real freaking small. So inside of this, they've managed to pack 60 compute units. They've managed to put 3,840 stream processors, which is like AMD's version of CUDA cores. And those are running at a whopping 1.8 gigahertz, which is pretty freaking fast. It's got 16 gigabytes of high bandwidth memory. This is the HBM2 memory, so it's going to be nice and fast, which for gaming doesn't normally make that big of a difference, but what it really shows its strengths in is like actual compute. So things that take a lot of, how do I say this? Almost like AI or deep learning or something like that.
Okay.
Because it's also got 1 terabyte per second of memory bandwidth. So it's going to have plenty speed to keep things moving along nicely. And it is rocking a 4096 memory, or 4096-bit memory interface. Not super important, but it's pretty exciting. And at the price point it's coming out at, I'm really curious to see how it's actually going to stack up in games, especially being 4K gaming coming more and more into mainstream. The more VRAM that's on board is going to be better. But alongside of that, they also talked about their Ryzen 3000 chips. Now, Ryzen really shook up the market a couple years ago when it released, because it was the first time AMD actually had something to offer to the table that gave great performance and actually rivaled Intel.
Gotcha.
because Intel was just like destroying the game. But anyway, so their, I guess, flagship chip or whatever is operating in synthetic benchmarks on par with Intel's 9900K, which is their top-end consumer chip. It's, I think, within 100 points in Cinebench of the 9900K. That being said, the reason it seems really impressive is, one, it's probably going to be a lot cheaper because the 9900K is $500+. This one, I suspect, will probably be about $400. Also, the 9900K runs at about 170 watts, so it puts out a lot of heat. This one is like 130 something watts. So they've really got that manufacturing down to where you're not going to have to worry that much about heat. It's still going to be a warm chip, but I don't think you're going to run into the issues you would with the 9900K. Also, just a little side note, and it's totally speculation at this point, but when the CEO of AMD held up the chip, they gave a nice zoom in shot to it, and it had a die that was the actual core, and then it had another die, which is supposed to be what helps everything communicate. But there at the bottom, there was plenty space for another CPU die. So who knows? Maybe we could actually see 16 cores on a mainstream chip. Who knows? Like I said, it's just pure speculation at this point, but it's definitely exciting. So, yeah, that is pretty much all the news. I feel like I ran through that so fast. In fact, so fast, now I'm going to switch the topic to the topic of the week. Oh, man. Eat that segue. You know it's good. You know it's good. Need a sip of beer after that one. But anyway.
Working pun.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there, Leanna.
Hi.
Hey. My wife talking to me in chat. Anyway, so, man, that segue just took everything out of me. I got nothing left. So the topic of the week is speed running.
Indeed.
There's a couple things that kind of influenced us to talk a little bit about this. Probably the first of which was that Awesome Games Done Quick just ran like a week or two ago.
That's right.
Which, if you don't know what that is, you should totally check it out. It's a group of the world's top speedrunners in various games. They assemble, and it's all like they just entertain you for like hours on end, like a whole week nonstop speed runs. And they raise money for charities. And there's been years where they raise like over $1 million throughout the week to give to some sort of charity, which is super awesome and super honorable. So thank you all for participating in those speed runs. If you have, apparently my wife was talking to you in the chat. But anyway, that makes me feel special. But anyway, so another thing that kind of brought up this topic, I'll let John take over on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because he's the one that found the article.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I didn't say anything. I spoiled that it was an article.
What?
Spoiler alert.
Oh, my goodness.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so Awesome Games Done Quick tends to be composed of the premier speedrunners, which we'll get into. We'll get into the breakdown what speedrunning is in a bit for those who are unfamiliar.
The uninitiated.
Sort of, right. The basics and such, but for those who are on the know and that know of the Super Metroid speedruns, which I guess, and this I didn't know, but Super Metroid hasn't been at Awesome Games Done Quick in some years.
Well, plus two,
2013, maybe 2011. It's
yeah, they try to keep it pretty fresh.
Okay.
Like, of course, you'll have your like Mario speed runs and things like that, but a lot of times they do those as races. So whoever can like any percent beat the game the fastest. They try not to have like the same old content
Sure.
just to entertain you a little better. So and
Well,
Metroid's a very popular one.
that's true. And so they've brought it back. And one of the top Super Metroid runners went through Zost. And he used to be the world record holder, of course. Which he lost that title to who did he lose to? Behemoth.
I don't know.
Uh,
There's so many good Super Metroid speedrunners. Like it's
was Behemoth.
ridiculous.
Anywho, he there are two terms that'll be important here: real time attack and in game time. Which real time attack being from when the game has started to when you start recording the play to when you stop. In game time being the time that the game measures. A lot of times this isn't counting cutscenes and load screens and that kind of thing. But,
Yeah, and they have come out with a lot of really cool tools because I don't know if you've ever played Super Metroid before, but there is a lot of items, and each item you collect plays a little chime, and you can't skip it. Well, speedrunning tools will actually, like, not count that time towards your time.
Sure.
And stuff like that, so...
Although, I'm not sure... Well, it doesn't matter.
I don't know if the official tools will, but I know there are tools that, like...
I think that fanfare may be recorded by at least some.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the more official, like speedrun.com. But
Yeah.
anywho, Zost managed to, while not beating that world record that was previously broken by another, while not again beating that, was able to make a milestone in game time, which hasn't been done since 2014. That's a real rarity. And again, while not a new speed run record in terms of real time attack and in terms of official run through, if he were able to incorporate that into a very solid run, there's the chance that we could see a new record.
Yeah, and like I speed run. I won't call myself a speed runner, but I do a lot of Super Mario World, especially like a few years ago. I was obsessed with speed running it.
Speed run enthusiast.
Yes, I am an enthusiast. That's how you pronounce that. It's French. But anyway, so what always excited me about speedrunning was there's so many different categories in which you could fall. Like, and we'll go over some of those a little more in depth. Like you have like any percent, you have 100%, you have glitchless, you have Taz, tool assisted speedrunning Taz. There's so like the horizon is so broad in which you can run the games, and it seems like there's constantly improvements in the stages of the speedrun because you have like set points in which the game is measured to see like, well, you're minus 0.03 seconds on this side, but you gained like 0.06 here, and there's always record changes. I mean, these games have been out for so long, and they're still breaking records, which is just, like, incredible. Like, it really goes to show, like, how well put together these games are and just how amazing people can be at video games. But, yeah, so, like I said, there are several different types of speedrunning.
Wow.
Or do you...
Well, I was just thinking, and we keep tossing that term around speedrunning, which most have probably heard the term before. And in fact, I'm absolutely certain there are many who've heard it and not necessarily scoffed at it, but it does seem like a kind of. But I mean, it's just running a game fast, right? And in a sense, that's exactly what it is. The implications of that, though, potentially go a little further.
So
the idea being that in order to run such a game fast, you have to know the game in and out. The idea is that it's a lot like physical athletics are in a sense about, well, I mean, what's the deal? It's just, I mean, it's the same run every time.
Yeah.
But you become better and better. You master and you master through practice, through experience.
Yeah. And probably one of the biggest things you have to do when you speedrun is route planning. And the routes are always changing. Like, these games have been out 20 plus years and people are still finding new routes. And these routes, like, a lot of times they'll only shave, like, maybe 0.2, 0.3 of a second. But when you're speedrunning through a game where the point is to get from beginning to end as quickly as possible, like, milliseconds matter. Like, it amazes me. If you ever go on speedrunning.com and look at the leaderboards, a lot of times, like, games leaderboards are differentiated by, like, tenths of seconds. Like, I'm going to pull one up for John to see here. Actually, no, I'm not, because that's distracting. And that's bad etiquette on streaming. But anyway, so yeah, like, milliseconds matter. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's exactly like seed times in a race.
Yeah.
Split times, they're called in speedrunning. The question could be asked, though, okay, so what? Why is it important? Why does it matter?
Mm-hmm.
And my argument would be that, at least personally, that the importance of speedrunning is sort of just like athletics, just like a race. It's a showcase of human potential. The idea is of what people are capable of when they push themselves and they put themselves on task again and again and again.
Yeah. And just to give you an idea of, like, the precision that speedrunning requires, so NTSC runs at 60 frames per second. So I want you to picture 1 second of time in a timeline, and then you're going to split that into 60ths. So in each 60th of a second, there's going to be another frame added. And that's what makes up your motion of the character on screen. A lot of times, these people are reacting on what's called frame-perfect actions. And that means out of those 60 frames, they have one frame in particular in which they can hit the button and do the action that they need to do. Like, just think about that for a second. Like, that takes a lot of skill. Like, you have to really know your game. I mean, even speedrunning Super Mario World, there's not a ton of them, but, like, I can never nail frame perfect actions the first time. Like, it's like chasing a unicorn.
Sure.
But
it's very much a man versus the machine kind of scenario.
Yes. Like Terminator. Except cooler with like little plumbers and giant gorillas and stuff.
This is the story of John Henry, the speedrunner.
The speedrunner.
John Henry Irons, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe it'd be good to I think that more or less sums up the nature of speedrunning.
Yes.
Maybe we could break into some of the
so
different types.
Now to go over the types. So there's several categories, and like I said, if you go on speedrunning.com, which is like the kind of the storage place of all of the international recognized like speed runs of games, like all of these are verified by other people, so that way like leaderboards aren't full of cheaters. But there's several different main categories, and then usually each game has like a subcategory, where there's people that have speedrun Link to the Past Zelda where they don't even obtain the sword.
Oh.
So they beat the game. It's called a swordless speedrun.
Sure.
Super Metroid, there's like different hacks of the game to where like the world will be sideways or something crazy. Super Metroid, you can also do what is called a reverse boss hack or reverse boss speed run, in which you basically manipulate the game to push you out of bounds and get you into an area in which you shouldn't have been able to obtain first.
It's specifically a reverse boss order. It's also known as sequence breaking.
Mm-hmm. That's like the game-wide terminology for it. Yeah.
Specifically in Metroid, in Super Metroid, one of the common occurrences you see of sequence breaking is the reverse boss order. It's one of the few games where it's possible, but
and like that's something you should definitely check out, because you got to remember, late game you're supposed to have a lot better equipment than you have, and the fact that these people are able to like navigate through lava levels and not have like the various suit and stuff, like it's pretty incredible.
It's impressive, to say the least.
But yeah, so there's main categories and subcategories. I'll just kind of go over a little bit of the main categories. So probably the biggest one and the number one that you'll see the most is called any percent. And it's just spelled any with the percent symbol. Essentially what that means is glitches and boundary breaks are allowed, as well as other exploits or manipulations. This really, to me, this is probably one of the more exciting ones, just because speedrunners can be a little more creative with their tactics and their routes. Like I said, reverse boss order or sequence breaking, that's kind of an any percent speedrun. Next, you have what's called a glitchless speedrun, and that's where you aren't allowed to do any sort of glitches. I'm not sure if exploits or anything like in Metroid you have the mock ball. I'm not sure if that's allowed, but it seems to be the more strict rule set of the speedrunning. Next, you have 100%, and just like the name suggests, you collect 100% of the items. All the levels are beaten, as well as all of the bosses are beaten. Super Mario World is a great example of this, just because most speedruns are any percent, in which you only have to beat World 1, and then the first stage, and then you kind of jump around, and then you end up on Star World, and like 5 minutes later you've beaten the game.
Right. There's a lot of secret paths and exits through various levels that will lead you to levels, and you can string those together to get to your final destination.
Mm-hmm. And that would be any percent. Zelda: A Link to the Past, you see a lot of 100% runs, just because that game has so many items that it is super awesome to see the challenge of people like picking the perfect route, and people are getting these 100% runs where they collect everything in like under an hour and a half for the most part, which is pretty impressive, because I did a 100% run of A Link to the Past like a decade or more ago, where I just took my time and collected, and I'm pretty sure I was so far over 8 hours in the game, like it wasn't even funny, and I felt like I was flying.
If I'm not mistaken, A Link to the Past is also one that sees a lot of sequence breaking in it too.
Yeah, that one has probably one of the most interesting sequence breaks in that whole like console generation. So you can actually beat the game in about I'd say a minute and a half, maybe even less. Yeah, there's a way in which you can run through the game. You kind of jump and save quit while you're in midair, and then restart the game. You run through, and what that does is it kind of confuses the game on which level you're technically on. And because that game's built in layers, and most of the layers are on one map. So when you do that and it confuses the game, you get hit by an enemy, and the game doesn't know which level to put you on. So
Sure.
it basically pushes you past the wall, and you're able to break the barrier. And then you just run up a couple times over, and then straight up. You'll run right past Ganon in the final stage and directly to the Triforce, where you beat the game. And you didn't even have to kill an enemy to do it.
Well, and I think we'll get there when we get to TAS. But
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of sequence breaking is one of the reasons where speedrunning isn't always seen as something of significance, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, like a lot of people, when they think of speedrunning, they just kind of generalize it all into one category. Where it's just a speed run. Like, there's a YouTube video where a guy beats Pokemon Yellow in less than a minute.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one.
And, like, they just kind of generalize that, like, oh, world record, he beat it in 1 second. Like, no, that's not really how that works.
Well, and I mean, and it's a facet of speedrunning, but it's certainly not the totality of it.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick before we jump further, because I think that's about where we're headed.
Yeah.
But Link to the Past, one of the sequence breaking tricks I think I see a lot is a reverse boss order run.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of games that utilize it, but Super Metroid being the most noteworthy. But I believe Link to the Past utilizes it as well, right?
Yeah, there's a... I don't know if it's a specific, like, Super Metroid is, where you beat the 3 main bosses in reverse order. Chat's probably gonna eat me alive on this one, or the comment section, but I believe you have to beat the first level or two. Like, you have to get up to the tower on the mountain to be able to warp to the Dark World.
So, in other words, it's not all of the bosses in reverse. It's a few of them can be run out of sequence.
Yeah, I would consider that more, if it's the way I'm thinking of. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I just know a little about a lot of different things. Jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah, that's me. But I believe that it's more of a sequence break instead of a reverse boss order. So, yeah, the last biggest run type that you'll see, and probably the most controversial depending on who you talk to, is TAS or TAS. Now, like I said earlier, that means Tool Assisted Speedrun. And oftentimes it's ran as its own entity. The reason for this being is it's one of the only classes in which you can use save states. So you're getting ready to walk into a boss fight. You save state right before you walk into it. A lot of people who are familiar with Fallout series, your quick saves are almost like a save state. So that way you go into boss battle, you get your butt kicked, boom, you can instantly reload that save you just did, and you continue where you were at that point.
Sure. Or even you constantly use save states so as to perform a perfected trick.
Yeah.
And once you nail it, then you can save state there and again move on. Instead of doing the run all at once, you can break it up with save states and just focus on one part at a time. It would be like if you were to run the mile, and instead of running all the laps at once, you run a lap, you take a breather, and then you run again, and you simply stop the stopwatch at every lap.
Yeah, and then you take, like, basically the best times that you were able to achieve on different segments and just add those together. Granted, a lot of times they are a forward run.
Sure.
But the difference being, like, you can just, like, oh, man, I really screwed myself on that one. Then you just, like, go back to a previous save. Also, some runs allow the use of slow-mo. And like I said earlier, when you're doing these frame-perfect movements, well, you slow it down to I don't even want to say that because that's not correct. You slow it down like it's running half the speed it should. Suddenly, you have double the reaction time in which you can do it. Or if you run it at a quarter speed, you can run... Oh, I thought that was a drink. Had a heart attack. But anyways, so you would have like 4 times the amount of time to react to those frame perfect movements. Yeah, so that's the reason it's probably the most controversial. Also, you have what's called a task bot. And what task bots do is basically they are programmed to run the perfect route, do the most frame perfect movements, and honestly be able to have a turbo function on each of their movements or whatever. So task bots are usually the ones you see. They're like breaks or beats blah 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 game in 5 minutes, where human players are doing it in like 20. Oh dear, you gotta mute the sound.
I got it.
But anyway, so that's task spotting. They are pre-programmed computers to run the game the most effective ways possible. Yeah. So to a lot of people, it's viewed as cheating, which kind of brings up a pretty good conversation piece. So it's like I was telling John. It's like you go to a sporting event. You don't go to watch somebody hit out of the park home runs every single time they're up to bat. It is really cool to see.
Well, and maybe you do, but what you go to see is that person actually doing it.
Yeah.
You don't go to see a machine
Yeah.
that
like
can
a robot
handle a
arm
bat
with a bat duct tape to it.
with a camera pointed at the at the pitcher's plate, so that the pitcher's mound, so that they can see the ball coming, analyze the perfect swing time. In theory, TAS makes a lot of sense in terms of. I won't spill it on your computer, I promise.
He saw me eyeballing a beer.
In theory, TAS is like it's the semblance of perfection. It's the idea of
this is as good as it could be done, sort of thing.
Right. It's like the it's like the ultimate frame versus method. I can't even think of the way to phrase it, but the point is that the artistry isn't there.
Yeah.
The practice, the idea of actually pushing yourself to your actual human limits. The idea of someone being able to run like a bot would in that scenario.
Yeah.
To run for 3 hours at a time and pull every movement perfectly.
Yeah.
That's what's, at least personally, that's what's impressive about speed running.
Yeah.
And that's why TAS tends, or arguably so, tends to give speed running a bad name.
Yeah.
Is because people look at it and they go, oh, well, you just have a bot program to do that. Anybody can do that then. It's not really, there's no skill there in a sense. I mean, sure, the methodology, the understanding of what's the fastest route, but you can use a program to break that down. And you use a program to run it, what's the point?
Yeah.
And my terms, the point is that it's the human input that makes for the beauty of a speed run.
The beauty of video games.
The booty.
Oh Lord, it's the booty. But yeah, I agree. Like to me, a TAS run is cool to watch. But as a gamer, I don't really have a respect for a TAS run, quite like I do for an any percent or 100%. But yeah, like I don't know. Maybe there's TAS people who will watch this and educate me a little bit more in the chat. I would love to have my viewpoint changed. Oh, excuse me. This beer's killing me.
And perhaps much like speedrunning as a whole appears from the outside, perhaps there's more to tool-assisted speedruns than seems so from the outside. But.
Yeah. But yeah, so essentially that is your main types of speedrunning. So if you see it at any given point, chances are you'll see one of those formats. I do encourage you to go to speedrunning.com, see the different categories, kind of figure out what's your favorite. And when you do, be sure to let us know. But yeah, so I think that pretty much covers the topic at hand. John, you actually had a pretty good question earlier.
Well, in relation to speedrunning, and specifically Super Metroid, since you and I are such huge fans of that game.
God, I love that game so much.
The question came up about, is mock ball a glitch? Which, again, for the uninitiated, mock ball is a certain technique in which in the game you're able to hold down a button press that allows you to gain momentum, to gain speed. And there's sort of a manipulation in which you can utilize this, as well as another ability, Morph Ball, to morph the title character or the protagonist, Samus, into a ball and maintain that speed, allowing you to breach some barriers preset in the game that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to breach. And the question arises whether or not that's a glitch. And then in regards to that, maybe more generally, what is a glitch? What's the difference between a mechanic, be it a subtle, nuanced one, and a glitch?
Yeah, and we were looking this up beforehand because we were starting an argument on it and decided to save it for the stream. But answers are kind of contradicting each other. Like, a lot of people are saying that a glitch is unintentional, whereas an exploit or manipulation of the game, such as mockball, were intentional. The thing is, we don't know if the developers meant to make Samus be able to roll faster in a ball form. So if they didn't intend to, does that make it a glitch?
Intention seems like such a questionable thing to base such a definition on, since it could be anything, and especially if you're asking outside of, I mean, it all, I swear it won't. It all depends on the nature. Arguably, some of the most fun that folks have with Super Metroid is because they can sequence break, because they can run the bosses in reverse order, and without the mock ball, that's an impossibility.
Yeah.
So it would only make sense that maybe a creator would say, well, yeah, we knew it was there. That was on purpose.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to note intention as the difference between a glitch and an exploit or a mechanic.
Yeah. And so we decided to bring it to the just wealth of all knowledge on the internet, Wikipedia. And because that is the most reliable source in which you can do any research. And this is what Wikipedia says. In video games, an exploit is the use of a bug or glitches, game system, rates, hitboxes, speed, or level design, etc., by a player to their advantage in a manner not intended by the game's developers. So therefore, they state that an exploit, like a glitch, is an exploit.
Yeah, Wikipedia could be anybody. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Curtis.
I'll tell you what, man.
The fact of the matter remains that there probably is a standardized version of what's considered a glitch, but it is going to be somewhat personal, like anything, I guess, to an extent. I mean, the definition is the definition, but everybody's got their own at the same time. Oh, but yeah. So, how about you though, personally, Curtis? Where do you lie in the issue? Do you
All right,
side
are
with?
we speaking with mock ball being glitch or exploit, or are we talking
As
difference
an
between?
example, I suppose just where do you side in terms of what is a glitch? What is the parameters? What separates a glitch from essentially just manipulating the system? You know, which it is an exploit. I guess that's the term
I
we're using.
honestly, since I read Wikipedia's definition of it, I kind of have to say I agree with it. I feel like a lot of bugs or glitches, as they would be called, are kind of exploits. Um, just
Well,
because, and I'm trying
sorry.
to think of something in particular, like with the level design glitch in Link to the Past I was talking about, where you can trick the game into not knowing which level you're on and then freak it out to make you break boundary. Like, technically,
So what if developers intentionally put a glitch in a game? Is it no longer a glitch then? If intention's the decider, if what makes a glitch
oh, it's the boy homie RJ up in the chat. What's up, dude?
Oh,
Sorry, I get excited.
that's great. That's good. I mean, let's get some other input.
RJ, I gotta ask you, man.
What defines a glitch?
What's the difference between a glitch and an exploit in a game? Hit me up, man. Let me know.
So, also, okay, so here's another point, which we were talking about briefly before, was wall jumping. That's it's a mechanic in mini games, but it's a mechanic in Super Metroid as well. Is it a glitch? Obviously, they put it in there on purpose. It's there.
Yeah.
There's even a sequence in the game where you can learn to do wall jump. But that's the thing. You have to go out of your way to learn it in a sense. Unless you're exploring, unless you're unless you're well, a simple
Yeah. So RJ in the chat said a glitch is something that isn't supposed to be in the game. That's totally not wrong. What we're talking about is like
well, that's very true though, because that boils down to intention.
yeah.
Which, if it's supposed to be in the game, if it was intended to be in the game, then like you said, then yeah, oh yeah. See, I don't. Yeah, it's a big question though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's wall jumping's obviously supposed to be in there, but it's the same concept of the mock ball. It's you never once, not once, have to wall jump in Super Metroid to make it to what is the conceivable end, the goal of the
Yeah.
game, to beat all the bosses, to get to that end frame. Never once do you have to use it, but it's absolutely there. You absolutely can.
And to get 100%, you absolutely have to use it.
Yeah, that's true.
But sorry, I'll
Actually,
let you.
that's technically not true, but
Well,
that's
sure.
the nature of Super Metroid. But
I totally bomb jump to get everything because I can't
that's what
wall
I'm
jump to
saying.
save my life.
But yeah, the question is, what's the difference between that and mock ball? And I guess if the whole difference is the question of whether or not that was intentionally put in, and if it wasn't, is that enough to make it a glitch? Because in other words, it's so weird to consider that being the factor because it's exactly like wall jumping, mock ball, in the terms of the mechanic, a mechanic that's there, but you don't have to take advantage of it. You don't have to exploit it to get to the end, but you can. They're both the same exact way.
Got a fantastic example.
Okay.
So RJ, over in the chat, what about Mew in Pokemon? You couldn't get him standard game, but you had to do RNG manipulation in order to get him. Is he an exploit or is he a glitch?
See, I would argue that is a glitch, but it's because it's a very specific instance of the game. It's not a mechanic.
But
you can't do that anywhere else to get any other kind of... Well, you can, but not in a consistent manner.
See, he's not missing no. So missing no, they didn't intend for him to be in the game. Mew, they totally intended him to be in the game.
Granted, they didn't intend... Well, I don't know whether or not they intended for you to get him in that way. I would say no. But
yeah, I believe it was cut content that was left in the game files that somehow...
It was supposed to be pre-order content, I think.
Exploit because it's in there, right? Yeah. So, like, a lot of people refer to getting Mew as, like, the Mew glitch.
Yeah.
It's like a cheat code at that point. Exactly. Like, you have to cheat how the game thinks in order to get Mew. But Mew isn't in the standard game. He
and is a cheat glitch
to be gotten.
Yeah.
So it's like, are you exploiting? Are you glitching? Like,
because the argument there is that he's in the code, but he's not in there in a direct way.
Yeah.
You can get there in an indirect way, and you can do it utilizing the system itself. It's not like you have to go with outside tools, like RJ suggested is what a glitch is, and pick apart the system to...
Yeah.
Technically, yeah, you just exploit the game to get there. For my money, what would make that a glitch and make mock ball not a glitch is because mock ball is something that you can consistently do at any time. As long as the parameters are present, you can mock ball. As long as you have enough room to run and jump into a morph ball, you can do it. It doesn't play on the code of the game in the sense that it's a specific instance. You're not manipulating the game against itself. It's real weird to talk about it in this way because, yeah, I mean, technically, when you get down on this level, anything is a manipulation of the game, considering that's the point of games is input from the player. But
so I think what it comes down to is separating the term exploit and manipulation.
I don't know. I think it comes down to
now we're getting all kinds of like hairy with this. We're splitting hairs.
I think it comes down to the point that labels are fun, but they're at the end of the day they're subjective.
Yeah.
Even putting that officiality behind it, it does. It's just terminology, I suppose.
Yeah. And see, this is the kind of stuff I really enjoy talking about. You get two fools up in here trying to explain their viewpoint on something. Neither one of them are experts.
Emphasis on the fool.
But yeah, so
hello.
I call mock ball exploit.
Okay.
Like that's my argument. It's not a glitch. But then again, like I said, I gotta give this some more brain power, man.
Personally, I agree in the sense that I call it a mechanic.
Yeah.
I think that whether it was intended to be there or not, which if we're being honest, it's hard to say. It is funny because with Super Metroid's case, it's part of what gives it all its glory. What makes it so great is that you can sequence break. But I would say that it probably honestly wasn't intended to be there.
Yeah.
But I still think of it as a mechanic rather than a glitch.
RJ says mothball sounds more like an exploit mechanic. Yeah, so what we're actually saying is mock. So it's MAC. Think of like going real fast. Like real fast, because that's what you're doing in
Sonic
mothball.
the Hedgehog.
Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog. But yeah, so that's what we're talking about. John, and no, I didn't just pick my nose on stream. I had an itch on the tip of my nose. I promise.
Itch.
I'm not gross. I'm gonna touch John's keyboard with it too. But
Sue keyboard, my keyboard. It's fine.
Jeez, man,
you don't want to know what I did with that keyboard before you came, Curtis.
Oh,
it's fine.
Boy, we really got off the rails on that one. Their Virginia is showing. Sonic the Hedgehog. Is that on the internets? Oh, man. So I don't know why my little toolbar keeps popping up over here. Go away, thing.
Okay.
But, yeah. So I think we've gone almost an hour.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where I'm going to call it quits.
Yeah, that seems fair.
I'm trying my hardest not to burp into the mic drinking this beer. It's been a struggle, I gotta admit. Hear a burp. But yeah, so with that all being said, thank you for checking out the stream. Can't wait to see you all next Tuesday. And yeah, have a good night. I'm Curtis.
I'm John.
And this was Player Tuesday.
Bye.
See ya.